Okay, now it's working. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the stream. Well, actually, just welcome to the stream. So, first time streaming up on YouTube. It is your boy Sweet. This is the Krayonn Rocket podcast. So, we're going to pretty much kind of go through Yahoo, and we're going to find some of the trendy topics to kind of talk about on this episode of the Krayonn Rocket podcast. There's going to be two. The other Krayonn Rocket podcast episode will be filmed probably on Sundays, but this one is going to be filmed on YouTube. So, we're going to find a topic and then we're going to talk about it, right? So, I actually did find one. This is suspect who beat elderly Asian man in Irvine is arrested thanks to community tip, right? A 23-year-old man has been arrested for the assault of an elderly man that occurred last Friday, according to the Irvine Police Department. The attack occurred during the evening as the victim, a 69-year-old man, was walking his dog outside the Sierra Vista Middle School. Anonymous source was able to help. Police identified the suspect, Kevin Kitos. I probably butchered that. I do apologize. Who was then located outside his apartment in the city of Tucson. According to the IPD press release, evidence found in his apartment connected Kudos to the incident. A rifle was also found in his car, which police say is unrelated to the case, but are still investigating whether Kudos was in lawful possession of it. Kudos is currently held at the Orange County Jail on charges of assault with a deadly weapon and elderly abuse. Detectives believe the attack followed an argument about the suspect's dog being off leash and was not racially motivated. The victim was last reported to have required hospital treatment after being attacked. He suffered a cut to the hand, but no other serious inquiries. Interesting, right? Interesting. So it's kind of hard a little bit to think that maybe it wasn't racially, motivated or anything like that, just because of all the things that have been going on lately, right? Just because of all the situations that have been happening to the Asian community and stuff, all these attacks. But maybe it wasn't, but you never know. I mean, it's just kind of hard to say it wasn't with everything that's going on at the moment, right? It's really hard to see that when things have been going on, and it's kind of hard. I mean, attack the dude because his dog was off the leash kind of don't make too much sense. I mean, I ain't gonna go walking. I ain't gonna be going walking down the street or at a park and be like, oh dang, that person don't have his dog on the leash, let me just go beat up the dude. It don't make no sense, right? You don't just go up to the person like, know what, I mean, I understand that you ain't got your dog on the leash, let me just beat you up. It just don't make sense. Like I said, especially with all the craziness that's been going on with these, like, within the Asian community and all these racially, motivated attacks and stuff like that. It just kind of like, I don't know. It seems a little bit too far-fetched to say that it wasn't racially motivated. That's all I'm pretty much saying with that, right? And I mean, dang, dude hospitalized just like all these other victims and stuff, especially in all this, right? So I mean, it's kind of like, okay, it's like, come on, right? Like, we go through all this, we see this, and like, it's like, do we have a heart anymore? Like, do we care about our fellow man? Do we care about each other, right? Because, like, I'm just seeing this, I'm like, man, like, growing up, like, never really paid attention to, like, racial divide or anything like that. Didn't really see if it was ever targeted towards me or anything like that. I never really paid attention to it. Maybe it was there and I was just blind to it. I don't know, right? But as I got older, I started to see it just a little bit more. And just with everything, man, it's like I'm seeing it more and more, right? So this next one is the Colorado shooter passed a background check before gun purchase. So Colorado gun store owner said Ahmad Al-Isa, the murder suspect in custody following the supermarket shooting in Boulder, Colorado, passed a state background check before buying the weapon which he used to kill 10 people. He was arraigned in court Thursday, purchased his AR-15 style weapon at the Eagle's Nest Armory in his hometown of Arvada, a suburb of Denver. An arrest affidavit said that the purchase occurred March 16, 6 days before the shooting. The gun store owner confirmed the affidavit in a statement, adding that the purchase was approved by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and that the store will continue to fully cooperate with law enforcement as their investigation continues. We are absolutely shocked by what happened and our hearts are broken for the victims and families that are left behind. Ensuring every sale that occurs at our shop is lawful has always been and will always remain the highest priority of our business. John Mark Eagleton, owner of the gun store, said. Regarding the firearm in question, a background check of the purchaser was conducted as required by Colorado law, and approval for the sale was provided by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. We have and will continue to fully cooperate with law enforcement, right? Yeah. It's crazy, right? Because, like, there's a big divide, right, when it comes to guns and when it comes to these mass shootings and different things like that, right? The big thing that I don't ever see really brought up too much is really mental issue, right? I feel like, man, I don't know. It's like weird. It's like, I don't know if there is really a solution, even if we did do like a evaluation on people, like if we could literally get it 100% accurate where we could prevent stuff like this, because things like this could happen all the time. They could happen anytime. You never know. The hard part is you don't know the intentions of someone's heart, right? You don't know the intentions of someone's heart when it comes to these things, when it comes to this responsibility of having a firearm or different regards or just different things like this, right? It's so hard. And see, that's the problem, is we live in a day and age where the heart of man is so deceitful. The heart of man is just so evil at times, right? You come across certain people and they just have so much evil intentions, right? They come with evil intent, right? And we don't know how to navigate it. We don't know how to see their true intentions. Like, it's so hard. Like, we ain't mind readers. We can't like read their emotion. Like, we can't know what they're feeling, right, unless they tell us. So that's the big issue. So I mean, past the background check, I know people gonna be like, just ban every gun and things like that. I understand that everyone has their opinion. They're gonna say what they want to say. I understand that part. But what I'm saying is, it's a way deeper issue than that, right? It's a way deeper issue than that. And, like, I ain't gonna really try to get my view up on here or anything like that too much or anything, but it's really trying to find the intention of someone's heart, right? It's trying to be like, okay, are we able to stop someone like this, from doing things like this, or is this going to be something that's just always going to be there and always going to happen, right? People could use references to other countries, other cities, things like that have lower or higher rates, and you could argue till you're blue in the face, right? Till you're blue in the face, and no one's going to budge. Nobody is going to budge on that. But Yeah. So we're gonna jump into the next one. This one is let's see. Which one should we do? Let's see, which one should we do? Okay, you know what? Let's do this one. Two stereotypes that diminish the humanity of the Atlanta shooting victims and all Asian Americans. Since the Atlanta spa shootings, the U.S. media has been working harder than usual to describe and understand Asian Americans. Asian Americans represent a population of 21 million people with astounding ethnic and socioeconomic diversity. Yet, the same two stereotypes often emerge in news coverage about them. One is that of Asian Americans as the perpetual foreigner immigrants who constantly struggle, never assimilate. That's how the 6 Chinese and Korean American women killed in the Atlanta area on March 16 came off in early stories about the massacre. The news media persisted in referring to victims as the women of Asian descent versus Asian American women. Even after that became clear, several were not recent immigrants. These victims, 6 of the 8 dead, don't fit into the other Asian American stereotype of the upwardly mobile, educated, eager to fit in immigrant, the model minority. As a journalism researcher who has published studies on the news media's tendency to render some groups in the U.S. as more American than others, I know both the model minority and the perpetual foreigner myths well. Both stereotypes have been levied in tandem against Asian immigrants to the U.S. centuries, right? Model minority in the mid-1800s, Chinese laborers made up the first significant wave of Asian immigrants to the United States. Recruited during the gold rush to build the transcontinental railroad, the men were described by employees like industrialists, quiet, peaceable, patient, industrious, and economical, right? And let's see, the perpetual foreigner, U.S. immigration policy shifted to favor family reunification and diversity of origin. Waves of Asians coming to the U.S. from the mid-70s and 80s and onwards. Some were refugees resettled from places where the U.S. had gotten involved in wars like Vietnam, Cambodia, South Korea. Other immigrants came from China, South Korea, Vietnam, Thailand, India, right? Attempting to lift their families out of poverty. Two stereotypes that the news spins, right? Two stereotypes that a lot of people probably put them in that category, right? But can't we say the same thing for other minorities, right? For the African American community, for the Mexican American, the Latin American community, right? All these different stereotypes, right? They always put us in these stereotypes and then they try to act like that's okay, right? But like they said, 6 of the 8 did not fall into those stereotypes. Right? So when we look at it, it's like you were putting them in a box and saying that they're this or that they're that and trying to act like it's okay. But you're defeating the purpose because you're making it still seem just as bad as when you say that they were attacked because of their race, right? Because then you're putting them in a category that you put upon them. And that's not right either. And I don't care how people want to justify it or what, but doing that is just ain't cool. It's not, because we're looking at it and we're like, okay, come on now, right? Come on now, like you just as bad, right? You just as bad if not worse. You just as bad if you are not worse. See, that's the crazy thing is, you know, we think by putting people in categories that we're not doing anything wrong, but in actuality we still are. We still are doing something wrong because we behind that stereotypical choice or that stereotypical like action that we take or put them in or in our mind, we have this stereotype of who they are, what they are, and how they should act and things like that we ain't doing anything wrong. But we are still doing wrong because we are not any better than somebody that is saying something mean to them because of their race. I mean, I'm pretty sure when you say or especially when you say and do things to them because of race, it's a whole nother level. But what I'm saying is, when we put these stereotypes on them, we are just being just as bad. Maybe not worse, but we are being just as bad. And what I'm trying to get at is there's no empathy there. We're not empathizing with them. We're pretty much just like, I don't know if it would even be sympathizing, honestly, but we are not empathizing with them. We are just pretty much just saying, hey, this is who we think you are, and, you know, this is the category we put you in, and then we just leave it at that. We leave it at that, and we just think it's okay, and we continue in this behavior, thinking somehow it's okay when we know dang right that it's not okay in any situation. Like, any situation at all. We just think that just because we say it, that we're saying something positive and uplifting and encouraging, or trying to empathize or sympathize with them, when we're really not. We're judging them, which is something from a minority you don't want to feel judged. You don't want to be put in a category because you feel less significant. And I'm being honest, you feel less significant when they do that. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right at all. But we're going to jump into the next one. Tommy Lee, I believe, or Tommy Le's family wins $5 million settlement for 2017 police killing. The King County Sheriff's Office has agreed to pay a civil rights case settlement for the death of Tommy Lee, age 20, who was shot and killed by police in 2017. On Wednesday, the family's attorneys announced the sheriff's office would pay Tommy Lee's estate $5 million in a settlement, which is half of what they initially sought in the 2018 lawsuit. According to the KIR07, both King County Sheriff's Office and Lee's family settled the suit a month before the case goes to trial in U.S. District Court. The County Sheriff's Office said in a statement they were willing to proceed with the trial in court of law. Although the parties do not agree on the fundamental facts of this case, we are pleased the settlement will allow everyone to avoid a difficult and likely painful trial. King County Sheriff's Deputy Cesar Molina was dismissed from the lawsuit as a named party as a condition of the settlement. King County Executive Doe Constantine hopes this settlement will bring peace to Lee's family and the community. As this tragic event underscores the need for a thorough review of law enforcement policies and procedures following an officer-involved death. I reaffirmed the inquest process to provide families, law enforcement officers, and community members with greater transparency and accountability. The new inquest will help transform police training and practices to prevent future tragedies. My most recent budget invests in community co-creation of new approaches to public safety, but the inquest process is currently on hold as the Washington State Supreme Court deliberates its future. There is still pain. Tommy Lee's father said nothing would change even after the settlement, right? There is still pain in our family every day. Nothing is going to change, he said. I want my son back. Jeff Campeacci, the family attorney, said that they feel like the settlement is a statement that the sheriff's office has not been truthful to the public. The settlement in this case is a victory for justice for Tommy Lee. He added, it's the truth of what happened. Campeacci claimed the sheriff's office collectively covered up the truth by concealing, omitting, and misstating, and even tampering with evidence during their investigation. It's no secret that there was a cover-up. It was so transparent when it was finally revealed. The family attorney said the truth is that Deputy Molina shot and killed an unarmed 120-pound Asian high school student in the back while he was retreating, and that does not meet the constitutional requirements for the use of deadly force. Authorities responded to the call of a man threatening people with a sharp object in 3rd Avenue South in Burien, Washington. Around midnight on June 14, 2017, Lee allegedly charged at the responding officers, Deputy Cesar Molina and Master Police Officer Tanner Owens, while carrying a weapon, which prompted them to open fire. Initial investigation revealed Lee was holding a pen and not a knife. As the police report stated, even though the family released an autopsy report stating Lee was shot in the back, the sheriff's use of force review and board concluded the fatal shot was justified within department policy. Last year, California-based OIR group conducted an independent review into Lee's murder and discovered serious gaps within the sheriff's investigation. So proof that they tampered with evidence, proof that they lied, proof that they just, this whole thing, right? They covered up this whole thing. They paid out the family and their excuse was so it's not as painful, right? So we give them something to kind of hush them up, to kind of maybe make them feel a little better. I don't know what it is, what their intentions were, but you think it was okay, but you're like, yeah, you know what, just, that's totally fine. Tampered with evidence, you did this, you did that, and you think it's okay. Don't think so. Don't think so, not at all. But, and then evidence shows that there was gaps in their investigation, shows that the kid did not have a knife, he had a pen, they shot him in the back. Autopsy shows, and like the dad said, with no matter what happens, nothing's going to change, right? Nothing's going to change. The fact that they still paid them off, all this, tampered with evidence, proof of it, they ain't going to change. Nothing's going to change with any of this. And we still sit here thinking that when the police pay them off, it's okay. It is going to probably happen again. It's happened time and time again. Everywhere. Right? Just everywhere. And it's sad. It's very, very sad. But man, it's just really, really crazy that we have to go through any of this and just, man, they lost their son, right? This happened like 3 years ago. And then they covered it up, all these different things. It don't make no sense, right? It don't make no sense. And we're over here thinking, oh yeah, things will change. Police department says, oh yeah, we'll retrain, we'll do better, we'll make the necessary changes that we need, right? And we still don't see it. We still don't see it. And yeah, It's crazy, right? It's crazy because we're seeing all this stuff and nothing's changing, right? Nothing is changing. And what do we do, right? What do we do? Because we're still seeing all this stuff. We're still continuing, with everything that's going on, But yeah, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. And we continue to see it. We continue to see it, and what do we do? Right? What do we do? No clue. No clue. So, going to kind of change it up a little bit. Trying to find. So I'm going to find actually. Find some like motivational blog to kind of like talk about a little bit different than just find another article to talk about. So I think I found one. This one seems pretty interesting. The 6 personalities of people pleasing and how I overcame them. We all might need this actually. We actually might need this in our life, right? So, with that being said, the truth is you're never going to be able to please everybody. So stop trying. Remember, the sun is going to continue shining even if some people get annoyed by its light shining in their eyes. You have full permission to shine on by unknown. Right? Give me a quick second. Sorry about that. So let me actually start that part over. The truth is you're never going to be able to please everybody. So stop trying. Remember, the sun is going to continue shining even on some people. Even if some people get annoyed by its light shining in their eyes, you have full permission to shine on. I used to be a rebel. I was the girl at the party who would waltz into a room and have everyone in awe. Their attention and curiosity caught by my presence. I felt it. They felt it. It was magnetic. I loved it. I had become the girl I wanted to be. That was until one night at a party while I was making a batch of popcorn in the kitchen, someone came up to me and asked, "Why do you need to prove yourself all the time?" This question caught me so off guard. I was initially confused. I was staring into space trying to figure out how I was proving myself all the time. So I asked exactly how I was doing this. It turned out that someone shared a story about themselves. I would share one of my own and it came across as bigger and better. This person went on to tell me, actually, no one likes it. Actually, no one likes it. And it's totally not necessarily to win over your friends. Holy moly, my blood started pumping faster through my veins. My face was burning up. My gut was wrenching at the thought of these people who I called friends not liking me. I thought I had finally found my community of like-minded souls. In this exact moment, I made the biggest decision of my life. It was time to squash down who I was. Again, you see, I was in my mid-20s and I finally felt free from my childhood patterns. I was confident. I had friends. I could finally be me, who I was without the filter. They needed a toned down version of me, so I began to hide. I would sit in the corner or behind someone else. I wouldn't share a story of my life adventures. I stopped dressing to impress. I apologized for silly things. I watched every move I made around these people. It was exhausting. But the fear of them not liking me was crippling. Over the years, I perfected these new behaviors of how not to be too much for the people around me. I went from being a wild, carefree soul to someone who was filled with anxiety in every social scenario. These new patterns overflowed into my work, family, relationships, friendships, I became oversensitive, reactive, and uncomfortable to be around. After a decade of self-punishment, I was on a call with someone who I was working with, and they called me out for apologizing for not getting something right, even though it was the first time I had tried what they were teaching. Then the words that flew out of my mouth were, "I did it again." Seriously, here I was, thinking I had it all figured out. I had adapted my behaviors, beliefs, patterns, and values to get through life, all in order to please other people. This was a slap on the face that I needed. So I went on a deep soul journey that involved journaling daily. I took a real good look at myself and I had created in my life. I began evaluating friendships, my work, the people in my day-to-day life, my family, and my environment. I had created a reality where I was no longer happy. My life revolved around everyone else's needs, and I placed them before my own. I had become so aware of people's energies, reactions, body language, and the tone that I felt like I was suffocating. And for what? To not have friends, to not have people like me, to sacrifice my life for others. From that moment forward, I chose me. In order to do that, I needed to recognize how I'd formerly denied myself and my feelings so I could become more aware of when I was tempted to fall into old patterns. Let me share with the 6 personality types I lived through for a decade and how they play out in our daily lives. Hold on. I think I lost. Daily lives and how I overcame them. The 6 people-pleasing personality types. The approval seeker. When I was living in approval-seeking mode, my actions were geared toward praise. I would do anything to be the best employee in my jobs, from working overtime to taking on extra responsibility. I would play by the rules, and when it came to my family, I would make an effort to be noticed by my friends, all while chasing that sense of belonging. Praise was the fuel that kept me going. It reinforced the things I was doing right. The remedy to being an approval seeker is self-trust, owning my values, my beliefs, instead of looking for external validation. I simply started questioning my motives and my actions. If I suspected I was doing something solely or primarily to receive approval, I asked myself, would I make this choice if I were being true and fair to myself? The busy bee. As a busy mama to wife, business owner, sister, daughter, and friend, there was a time where I thought if I had to keep it all together for everyone around me. I was a person who organized all the parties, Christmas dinners, birthday celebrations, family get-togethers, kids, school activities, groceries, holidays, everything you could think of. The people around me saw me as dependable and organized, and they knew that if I would do any task to help out, of course without any fuss, because I was being of service to the ones I loved. After I spotted a yoga class I wanted to attend and realized I needed to make time in my schedule, started to review my weekly routine, I realized I didn't have to be everything for everyone at all times, which was hard to accept since acts of service is one of my love languages. But I knew being less busy was an act of kindness and love for myself. The conflict avoider. When people raise their voice or assert their authority to me, I tend to crumble. Looks like I'm still standing there, but in my mind, I'm in a fetal position on the floor. Speaking up for what I believe in is sometimes easy when I'm fueled by passion for topics I love, but there are a few people in my life who turn me back into the conflict avoider in a second. In tense situations with these people, I often observe what is about to play out and create an exit strategy. I ask myself, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be? What do I need to say to get me out of here? When I recognize I'm doing this, I now take a few breaths to ground myself before leaning into the discomfort I'm feeling. I consider how I can stay true to my values and respond in any way that opens the space for discussion. The self-sacrificer. This is the most common form of people-pleasing because it is driven by love. It happens with our nearest and dearest. I once had a boyfriend who was into punk music, and slowly over time while dating him, I turned into a punk chick. I listened to his music. I wore all black, tore up my clothes, went to the blonde to black. I would have done everything for his love. Sacrificing is when we put others' needs ahead of our own, fitting in with their agendas and adapting to them. Yet, in this process, we lose small pieces of ourselves. It's a personal crime when it happens because it takes years to rediscover all the things you once loved. Experimenting is the cure to finding that the feeling of pure happiness we once held. I took belly dancing in various yoga classes, went for walks, different places, and challenged myself to try new and old things to see if they lit me up. I also reminded myself that I don't need to sacrifice my interests and needs for anyone else, because if they truly love me, they'll want me to honor those things. The apologizer, sorry, oops, sorry, oh yes. I would apologize for everything from accidentally bumping into someone at the grocery store to taking a long time getting drinks at the bar. I eventually realized I apologized all the time because I believed I was at fault in each situation, not just super observant and sensitive to other people as I'd formerly believed. I blamed myself for all kinds of things, from meeting my needs to taking up space. One day I decided to walk the busy city streets with my head held high, no more sidestepping to get out of other people's way and apologizing for almost bumping into them. Bit my tongue, simply remind myself that it is okay to have my own agenda. I am not to blame for things that are out of my control, and I have a voice. The sensitive soul. Often I would guard myself against the world, even though I wanted to trust it, because I had a hard time creating emotional boundaries. The word should always hung over my head. I should always be available. I should be able to listen whenever someone needs me. But this took a huge toll on me. Everyone would come to me to share their story, offload their junk, and then move on, leaving me with a negative energy load. I would push down my feelings and pretend everything was okay, and also I felt like I couldn't share my story with others because they were in a bad mood, feeling sad, or the timing wasn't right. I was a doormat. I needed to address my conditioning in order to stop taking on other people's problems. Why did my feelings come second to others? Why were their stories more important than mine? I discovered that I had been putting others on a pedestal and that I needed to dig deep into the shoals and start tackling one at a time until I was able to speak up and set limits. I started pleasing people because someone told me I was always trying to prove myself. But ironically, that's what people pleasing is, trying to prove you're a good person by doing all the right things so no one will be upset or disappointed. Ultimately, though, we end up disappointing ourselves. Since I've started challenging these personalities, I've slowly offset my need to please. It hasn't been easy, but now I'm a lot closer to the person I used to be, someone who likes who she is and has nothing to prove to anyone. Do any of these personalities sound similar to you? Man, that's a good question, right? That is a good question. The busy bee, conflict avoider. Busy bee, maybe not too much. Conflict avoider, yes. Self-sacrificer, yeah. Apologizer, yup. Sensitive soul, yup. Definitely relate to a lot of these personalities that she was talking about, right? Definitely relating to a lot of those personalities that she was talking about. But I think this is something that we could look at and be like, man, am I like that? Is that what I was going through? Is that how I react? Is that something that is me, right? If we could deep dive into that, break it down, and start to make the necessary changes that she was able to make to become a better person ourselves, and not allow others to dictate who we are and who they want us to be. I hope that blog motivated you in some type of way, help break it down in some type of way, help you in some type of way, y'all. Because you know what? Definitely something that hit home. I was like, ooh. And luckily, I have a beautiful, amazing fiance that's helped me with that stuff all the time, and I help her as well. So, with without further ado, y'all, I'm gonna have to bid you adieu. And if you ain't subscribed yet, subscribe too. And until next time, salute.